All right, hey, third grade. Let's talk about third grade manipulatives. So a couple of housekeeping items. First, I want you to be clear on the type of kit that you may have received in your math expressions materials, whether that's something that was left over from a previous teacher and you adopted what was left over, or you're a new adopter and you're getting something new. Just know that there's different types of kits. So there's a full math expressions kit that we just call a full manipulative kit. And that has all of the different materials, including things like place value blocks and play money, and all the generic, if you will, types of materials in addition to math expression specific ones. Most districts don't buy this because they feel like they already have many of those generic tools from other math programs, other adoptions. That leads them to buying the custom manipulative kit that has specific math expressions materials in it. These are things like the secret code cards and these multiplication targets. The tools that really are specific to teaching expressions comes in the custom kit. That's probably the most common manipulative kit that's purchased. Then there's also the teacher modeling kit. Now, this is a demonstration box. It comes as a kit of materials that includes all of the posters that are folded, laminated, and put in the bottom of the box. It oftentimes comes with the demonstration secret code cards, so on and so forth. So those are the materials that the teacher needs in order to model, if you will, with various materials. So just be clear about what type of materials you have. The last option is the individual student kit. Those come in large plastic bags. It has like a red trim around it. And that's where all the student manipulatives, like the specific student versions, are in those little bags. So every kid would get their own bag. It's already torn apart. They're already in their own little baggies. There's no real prep work. Whereas if you get the full kit or you get the custom kit, there is some prep work. You're going to have to take out like the secret code cards and tear them all apart and make your student sets. That won't be done for you. So be clear about what type of kit you have. Also be clear that this is for all the manipulatives as of the 2018 copyright. So any copyrights after that may be a bit different as to what they're going to include in those kits, but just take a look at what you have there. Take a look at the back of the teacher's edition. There's some manipulative resource pages that tell you all the different types of manipulatives and in what unit they're used. And then you can compare that to what you actually have in your kit. So if I look here, I have a link to manipulative list. That's going to give you what the publisher has given out in terms of tells you how many sets of secret code cards you should have in your room, how many different posters. Okay, it's going to tell you quantities and the names. This image here is going to tell you what those items look like and their official names. So first we have those secret code cards. This is a specific tool that we use in math expressions. It's actually a Montessori tool that we use to build numbers all the way starting from kindergarten. So in this material management workbook, you're going to find a couple of pages just on this topic of secret code cards, how to manage them, how to store them, and then their purpose. So really in third grade, you're only going to use these in Unit 3 if you're in the 2018 copyrights, and then it could be Unit 4 if you're in the 2013 or 2015. But essentially, it's your addition, subtraction, place value unit. That's where you'll use these materials the most. You'll use them maybe a bit more in some quick practices and subsequent units, but really they play a small part in the third grade world, but the part they do play is pretty important. So make sure you have them available for that Unit 3. Right next door, you see that we have rulers. So this is actually a Blackline Master. It's going to be found in your teacher resource book. I have it on this list because it might be something that you prep ahead of time. Copy onto cardstock, put the pieces already together, laminate them. That you're going to notice that there's various versions. So it has a whole numbers, like to the nearest inch, to the nearest half inch, and then we go to the nearest quarter inch. That's different than maybe a ruler you might buy at like Walmart, where it has even all the way to eighths or even sixteenths. So we don't want to complicate life too much for our sweet third graders that are just learning about fractional lengths. So we really step them into these different rulers. And once they understand the first one and how it's built and they can only see full lengths, then we talk about what happens if those are cut in half. And what do we call those? So it's essentially fractions on a number line. So if you have other rulers, by all means, you could use them, but I do suggest using these ones as you get into your measurement units. Now, posters are going to be in your teacher modeling kit. You're going to notice that those are listed here. You have a geometry poster, really talking about the categories of quadrilaterals, some really good visuals of the various types of those quadrilaterals, what they might look like, different orientations, different shapes, different sizes. You have some visuals about perimeter and area and about units. So this is just a nice reference poster that you might add to your focus wall or math wall during your geometry units. You have the multiplication table poster. Now, this is probably probably the most important poster you have in third grade. It is quite large. It's one of the largest posters that come in any of the grade levels. It takes up a good part of a normal bulletin board, and it has specific purpose. So you're going to use it in unit 1 and 2, but then you really will reference it throughout every unit from after unit 2. So it's used all year long. It should be up even if you're using other multiplication charts, digitally with iTools or during your daily routines, quick practices. You may use a digital version, but you still should have this published. Now, there's a couple ways that teachers use it. One is they put like a deep, dark colored sticky note over every single one of the boxes, and they cover up those equations and products. And then they only take off the sticky notes after students have learned those specific facts. So let's say they've learned their 2s, then they would remove all of the sticky notes that cover factors with 2. Now, if I want to go the opposite way, I can leave everything uncovered and only cover up the things that I have already taught. So I'd go in the opposite direction. And that's so that students aren't using the chart for facts that they've already learned. They're only using it for facts that they haven't learned yet. So if I go in either direction, what they start to see is that area either gets smaller and smaller or gets bigger and bigger, so they can see how many facts they've already learned and how many are realistically left that they need to learn. For example, if I've already learned 2 times 6, I don't need to learn 6 times 2. I've already learned that one as well. They're going to either both be uncovered or both covered. Now, the multiplication poster here in expressions is specific. It's not a normal multiplication table. I highly suggest you use this one. Notice that if I were to do like 5 times 7, and I bring my fingers together, oftentimes kids will get to 35, but what we find is that by the time they get to 35, they've completely forgotten the fact. They don't remember that the full equation is 5 times 7. So in this chart, you're going to see the products are in red, but then you're going to see that the full equation is also in those boxes. That's a unique feature of this particular chart. Kids are going to use this chart for patterning. They're going to learn it use it for count bys. They're going to use it and they learn strategies like the 5 shortcuts. They're going to use it many, many times during unit 1 and 2, and then during quick practice for like many, many units, they will be utilizing this particular chart. So again, even if you're using a virtual version, I highly recommend there's a prominent place in your classroom where this will exist, and then you can decide what is covered or uncovered. Now, with that, you also have multiplication targets. This is a specific tool for students. They're little tiny squares that come in your kit. You're going to punch out these little holes here to make these 2 strips. It goes paired with a regular multiplication chart that also comes with those kits or in there. I should say it's in their student workbook. And it just helps students to make sure that their columns are lined up so they can actually use the chart correctly. It's only really in 1, maybe 2 lessons. It doesn't come up very often. Again, we mostly use this chart, and then we only sometimes really use the regular chart. And this is just a day's worth of lessons about how to use the multiplication chart more effectively. Now, you have the last thing you have is the sample multiplication and division cards. So you have a set of both. You have multiplication cards, you have division cards, and you probably also have product cards, depending on what kit you got. Product cards are just have the equation on one side, the product on the other, and oftentimes it has a hint at the bottom of the card on the equation side, like giving a hint of, you don't know 2 times 6, but what do you know 6 times 2? So that would help you come up with that product. Those are used really later in the year once students have had basic understanding of conceptual skills in multiplication and division. They've learned some strategies. Now they're committing to memory. You might move to the product cards. Those are also used in several of the games that are introduced to math expressions. And so because it's a smaller, more square card. These are larger cards. They have to be torn apart. They come in stacks, shrink wrapped, that you're going to pull apart if you get the custom kit. And so oftentimes the question I get is, well, how do I organize them? So I would organize them by the green factor. So in this card right here, the 3 is the green factor. So I would consider this a 3 card. So I would put all the green, all the cards that have 3 as the green in one pile. Then I'd have all the cards that have 4 as the green in another pile. So as you learn each factor in expressions, you're going to see that that pile gets smaller and smaller and smaller because you technically already covered it or taught it using another factor. So I would definitely organize these, get these pulled apart, put them in the right factor spots or sleeves, or rubber band them, or use a coupon organizer. And then as students get through those lessons in unit 1 and 2, you keep adding to their learn pile. So they would have a know right away, know with the strategy, don't know type piles, and they keep adding it to them. So even if they like know quickly one of the piles, that goes into their like, let's just drill and, continue with automaticity. Versus the know with the strategy pile, you might say, today I want you to practice with your know with the strategy, and they're going to specifically use the back of the cards to help them. That's what makes this a unique strategy card. So it doesn't just have the product on the back. It has both the commutative equations, so 3 times 9, 9 times 3. It shows you how to count by 9s 3 times or 3 9 times, and then it shows you a fast array. So it gives you a visual cue. So when you turn that card over, you're not just saying, oh yeah, I knew it was 27. You're looking at what those visual strategies might be. So again, you have these for multiplication and you have them for division. They get it introduced, I believe, around lesson 12 in unit 1. So other things that you may want to invest in that are not generally in your custom kit are place value blocks. You're going to use those in 2 different places. You'll use them in unit 2 as you learn how to multiply with tens. And so you'll use the 10 sticks to help you with multiplication of that. And then you'll use the tens, hundreds, and ones as you work on rounding and multi-digit addition and subtraction in unit 3. Then you have square inch tiles. The square inch tiles, I really feel like should just be a part of the kit. They're not, but it's probably one of the more important tools that we're going to use in 3rd grade. You're going to use them in unit 1 and 2 when you build arrays, and then you push them all together to build the area model. You're going to reuse them in the geometry unit when you actually relearn area and perimeter, and you have to tile a particular rectangle. So those are the 2 main places you're going to use them, but conceptually, it's probably one of the most important tools as students are learning division and multiplication. They'll use them as a common manipulative. So you may want to invest in some of those. If you don't have any or you're not buying some for your classroom, go talk to your grade 2 teachers, as they have orange and purple ones that are foam square tiles and come in their kit. So you can always go buy or borrow what those teachers have if you don't have any of your own. All right, my friends, that's all there really is in 3rd grade in terms of manipulatives. You focus way more in this grade on your math drawings and connecting it to some of these basic conceptual tools, and then you move to more numeric methods. Enjoy, and let me know what questions you might have.